Should the Phoenix Suns sign and trade for Warriors forward Jonathan Kuminga after moving on from Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant? There are rumors floated out there from Jake Fisher in the Steinline that the Phoenix Suns are interested in the Warriors forward who averaged 15 points per game this past season, but he might come with a hefty price tag, and that has to be a sign and trade. A trade with Grayson Allen and Nick Richards could technically work for the Suns and the Warriors to pull this off, but it's how much do the Suns want to pay?
What do you get when you mix Jonathan Kuminga, spicy trade rumors, and a front office having a midlife crisis? Chaos. Beautiful, click-worthy chaos. The Suns want stars. The Warriors want spreadsheets? And Kuminga, he just wants a team that doesn't treat him like a forgotten coupon. Buckle up, because this unlikely trade has everything: drama, delusion, and a splash of NBA soap opera. Let's unpack the madness before the next reportedly drops and breaks Twitter again.
The Golden State Warriors will not win a championship. They will not be in contention for a championship if Jonathan Kuminga is on the roster heading into next season. Because not only do you give him a big contract and you're not able to trade him away to get assets back, you also get yourself closer and closer to the first apron and further into the luxury tax. Could you get him on a little bit more of a hometown discount, considering that the reports are that the market might not be as, prudent for him? Perhaps, but it's still likely that he makes something close to $20 million annually. I think a Kuminga sign and trade.
Jonathan Kuminga wants to play basketball. Revolutionary concept, right? A 22-year-old athletic freak of nature, dunking on heads and guarding 5 positions, is apparently too much of a philosophical dilemma for the Warriors to handle. Meanwhile, the Phoenix Suns looked over, blinked once, and politely declined the chaos like someone offered them a plate of gas station sushi.
They were talking about JK, and Steve's answer was it's a tricky one because Jonathan obviously is gifted, and for me, I've been asked to win. And right now, he's not a guy who I can say I'm going to play 38 minutes with the roster that we have. He didn't say that Jonathan Kuminga can't play 38 minutes anywhere and be a successful player. He said, with this roster, do I agree with that? I don't know that I necessarily agree. You just haven't seen it. If you JK, you got to make the best decision for you. I don't think JK should have a next interview until after free agency because Steve Kerr is the legend. JK can only lose here. Free agency is happening.
Let's get this straight. Jonathan Kuminga was supposed to be the Warriors' golden bridge to the post-Curry era. A freakish bundle of raw talent, explosive dunks, lockdown defense, and enough upside to give a rebuilding team the tingles. But here we are, in year 4 of the Warriors' midlife crisis, and they still can't figure out if Kuminga is a cornerstone or just a trade chip they forgot to mail out last February.
So it's being reported from Jake Fisher that the Phoenix Suns are the latest team to show interest in Jonathan Kuminga. Now, if you guys didn't know, Jonathan Kuminga will be staying with the Golden State Warriors until the NBA trade deadline, until the Golden State Warriors can find a good team and a good deal for Jonathan Kuminga. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I think the Phoenix Suns would be actually a very good fit for Kuminga, and honestly think this would help the Suns. They have the draft capital. They have the players to give up, and it's not like they have to give up, their top players.
Of course, the Suns getting dragged into this drama was just the cherry on top. Rumors were buzzing like bees in a soda can. Kuminga to Phoenix? The basketball world was momentarily fascinated. And then, boom, reportedly unlikely. Just like that, rejected harder than a LinkedIn cold DM. Phoenix, the franchise that once traded their youth away for Kevin Durant like they were shopping on Black Friday, suddenly decided to act responsible.
Right, so there is a ton of smoke around Jonathan Kuminga and a deal, a sign and trade with the Sacramento Kings. And that smoke is throughout different markets, from Sacramento to Detroit, even to some people in Golden State or in the Bay Area. The Kings, this is not a surprise to anybody, are very interested, of course, in Jonathan Kuminga.
Because let's be honest, the Suns are the last team you expect to say no to a flashy young forward. This is the same franchise that looks at depth like it's an optional dessert. Their current bench rotation might as well be composed of mannequins in warm-ups, but even they took one look at the Kuminga saga and said, nah, we good. Translation, they sensed this wasn't just about basketball. This was a full-blown organizational identity crisis disguised as a trade rumor. Golden State, once the monarchy of modern basketball, is now a fever dream. Klay's gone. CP3 ghosted. They finally accepted that chasing the 2 timelines was like trying to serve 2 masters and accidentally firing both. So now, with Steph aging like a fine wine and Draymond yelling at rookies for breathing too loud, the front office is having trust issues. Big ones. They want to win now, but they don't want to pay tomorrow. Enter Kuminga. He balled out last season. Finally unleashed, he looked like a walking highlight reel with a grown man's game to match. Efficient scoring, lockdown defense, energy off the charts. You know, all the stuff Golden State pretends they prioritize until it comes time to hand out contracts. Then suddenly it's, we need to evaluate our options.
Jonathan Kuminga, right after they got under the second tax apron and saved a whole lot of money. What do you think about adding the young forward to the Suns squad? Do you think it's too risky, too much of a gamble, or just the right move for Phoenix?
You can smell the doubt from here. The Warriors aren't sure if Kuminga fits their system, which is code for, we're scared to change, but too broke to rebuild. They've spent so long hypnotized by the beauty of motion offense and split cuts that the idea of letting a young dude attack downhill makes them twitch. Meanwhile, Kuminga is just sitting there like, you want me to do what? Set 47 off-ball screens for a guy who just turned 36? Cool, love that. But let's give Phoenix some credit for once. They saw the bait and didn't bite, because deep down, they knew this wasn't about Kuminga's game. This was about money, power, and indecision masquerading as trade negotiations. Phoenix has no cap space, no picks, and no interest in inheriting another team's awkward silence. Plus, adding Kuminga means one of two things: benching a star or giving the ball to a 22-year-old on a roster where Kevin Durant still exists. Good luck with that. The Suns aren't a player development program. They're a supermax convention with rims. They didn't reject Kuminga because they don't like him. They rejected him because they don't know what to do with him. So what happens now? Golden State acts like they're not worried, but their poker face is twitching. They know Kuminga's value has ballooned. Teams are watching. He's no longer a mystery box. He's a near star with all defense potential.
Jonathan Kuminga has never, to me, been given the full opportunity to flourish. I think criticism of JK's play this last year was warranted at times. You know, you got to stay ready to be ready, whatever all the phrases are. When his number was called, he didn't necessarily always play well. But I just look at a young player. He's only 22 years old. He came to the league after never playing in college, taking part in the developmental G League Ignite that was a short-lived experiment by the NBA, supposing to get players ready for what it takes to be at the next level and, you know, give them a shortcut of sorts to bypass the collegiate game and to really focus on the business.
But the clock is ticking. If they wait too long, they'll either lose him for nothing or end up in another Jordan Poole situation, overpaying a guy they don't actually trust. You can already hear the whispers in the front office. What if we trade him before we have to pay him? What if he gets even better and then asks for $30 million? What if we just run it back with Kevon Looney and a dream? It's NBA anxiety at its finest. And let's be real, Kuminga is not asking for the moon. He wants consistent minutes, a defined role, and maybe a touch of respect. You know, all the things the Warriors used to give to random bench players during the dynasty days. Remember when Ian Clark got actual run in the finals? But now that Kuminga's asking for the same courtesy, it's suddenly a dilemma. This whole ordeal also proves one brutal truth. The Warriors still haven't figured out their identity. Are they a win-now team clinging to Steph, or are they a youth project with commitment issues? You can't have both without looking like a franchise with a split personality. And the Suns, as dysfunctional as they can be, saw that and took a polite step back, which is kind of wild because the Suns usually jump at chaos. They just acquired Bradley Beal, who hasn't played a full season since emojis were a new thing.
Do you see a scenario in which Kuminga and Golden State mend the fences and he's actually on the roster this upcoming season?
I would say that's the likeliest scenario at this point, because I'm not sure he's going to get to, be able to muscle his way to a point where he gets the dollar amount that he wants, while also the Warriors get the trade package they want. Because that's the thing. A team like the Kings, for example, they not only have to, give the Warriors a sign and trade package that they agree to, but they also have to then commit to an amount of money to pay Jonathan Kuminga. You have to check.
They traded half their depth for Durant and then acted shocked when they needed more than 7 players in the playoffs. But even they saw the Kuminga trade and said, this ain't it. That should be a red flag the size of Arizona. So where does this leave Kuminga? Floating in limbo while the franchise tries to decipher its own future using vibes and spreadsheets? And the rest of the league? They're circling like hawks, just waiting for Golden State to flinch, because everyone knows what happens next. Kuminga either gets extended and becomes a breakout star, or he gets shipped off somewhere that lets him run wild, and suddenly The Warriors are watching him average 20 and 7 on national TV while they search for the next J. Michael Green. And here's the kicker. Even if they keep him, how long can they fake belief? Are they going to actually build around him? Or is this just another season of, well, let's see how the vibes go while he watches Andrew Wiggins play 35 minutes, regardless of whether he breaks a sweat? This isn't just about contracts and cap space. It's about the fundamental inability of a legacy team to transition. They're trying to keep one foot in the past and one toe in the future. And all it's doing is making the present
That's
awkward.
not the case, right? Jonathan Kuminga can grow with Devin Booker. He can grow with Jalen Green. And I just want the best for Jonathan Kuminga because his skill and his potential is through the roof. I mean, we've seen a glimpse of it during the postseason when Steph Curry got injured and he was one of their best players out there. So we'll see what happens. I'm not too sure what team he does go to during the trade deadline if it's not the Phoenix.
Kuminga keeps grinding, keeps improving, and keeps quietly putting pressure on a front office that's pretending everything is fine. Spoiler, it's not. And as for the Suns, they walk away from the mess with their usual shrug. They'll go back to pretending they're one bench signing away from contending, while Kuminga remains the NBA's most passive-aggressively misused asset. Let this be a warning. When a player is too good to ignore, but too young to trust, teams panic. They overthink. They create drama where none existed, and they leak stories to the press with phrases like reportedly unlikely, just to gauge the market without picking up the phone. Because the Warriors didn't really want to trade Kuminga, they wanted to see if they could trade him. There's a difference. One is strategy, the other is fear. And fear is a bad place to operate from, especially when your franchise has been defined by swagger, not second-guessing. Kuminga's name might be in trade rumors, but let's not get it twisted. He's still one of the hottest tickets in the league. Every front office with a half-functioning Wi-Fi router and a tired scouting department knows what time it is. He's 22. He jumps like he was born on a trampoline. He defends like his paycheck depends on it. And spoiler, it does.
Is like the biggest thing left, probably.
That's a good. I didn't think of that.
That domino is going to fall, and he's going to be back in Golden State, and we're all going to go, of course.
Wow, yeah, that's a good point. And because if he stays, I don't know, man. How much longer is Steve Kerr going to do this too? Is he wait until Curry retires, or what's?
I mean, if Jonathan Kuminga signs like a 4-year contract, Steve Kerr's out the door tomorrow.
That's kind of what I was hinting at because it feels like they're butting heads, but
dude, those guys hate each other.
Why? So why isn't I don't understand why they don't move on.
And after flashing scoring prowess this past season, folks around the league aren't asking, is he good? They're asking, why the hell are the Warriors even shopping him in the first place? That little unlikely trade report? Yeah, that wasn't just a leak. It was a panic button disguised as a press release. It either means the Warriors suddenly realized they were about to pawn off a Ferrari for a used Segway, or they were bluffing and no one bit. Either way, it screams one thing. They have no idea what they're doing. You ever seen someone try to return a lottery ticket because they didn't like the font? That's what this feels like. This kid has all-star upside, and Golden State's over here treating him like expired almond milk. Do they want a future cornerstone, or are they just collecting former G League players like their Pokemon cards? 1 minute they're raving about his potential, the next they're packaging him with a 2047 second-round pick for a backup stretch 4 with knee concerns. You can't make this up. Actually, you could, but the Warriors might try to trade that too. Now comes the fun part. Contract time. Extension watch is officially on. Will Kuminga secure the bag? He's earned it. Or is he plotting a jailbreak from the Warriors' 48-minute philosophy seminar known as Steve Kerr's offense?
And if you don't, then either Kuminga's going to say no or the Warriors are going to say no. And it just doesn't seem like both of those sides seem a little bit dug in. And I just think it kind of works against each other. And my opinion is eventually they'll get to a compromise contract that, and I didn't even explain the base year compensation rule, which really complicates this. And I almost don't want to get into it because of, the CBA, and we could probably spend 20 more minutes on it. But I just think all of the market dynamics at play will lead him back to the Warriors at a compromise contract that can potentially be traded come to.
Because here's the thing. He doesn't just want money. He wants a team that believes in him. A team that doesn't need to figure out his role every 36 hours. A team that sees him as a building block, not a rotation afterthought who might get 12 minutes if the moon is in Pisces. And if you think Steph Curry isn't watching all this unfold like a dad watching his kids try to rewire the house without instructions, think again. How many more young talents have to walk or wilt before he pulls the emergency lever? James Wiseman was sent to Detroit with nothing but a backpack and a thank you card. Jordan Poole got traded like an expired library book. Moses Moody's getting treated like the team's forgotten password. And now Kuminga might be next? Golden State is juggling 3 flaming swords right now. First sword, keep Kuminga, bet on his development, and pray Kerr finally lets go of the 2015 playbook. Second sword, trade him, but only if a contender coughs up something real, not vibes and cap space. We're talking actual assets. Third sword, and easily the sharpest, do nothing. Just sit back, fumble the negotiations, and let Kuminga walk into free agency with the kind of smirk you only get from surviving basketball purgatory.
The Phoenix Suns are interested in Jonathan Kuminga. Let me break it down. They only want him via sign and trade because as it is, Kuminga is a restricted free agent. Any team in the league could offer him a contract, including the Phoenix Suns, but that would move them into the second apron, which they just escaped out of to sign Bradley Beal. So the only way, and I see Warriors fans going crazy, oh, we're getting D-Book, no, that's not what that means. The most the Warriors could receive at this point from the Suns would be Grayson Allen and Nick.
Because here's the reality. You don't get many chances to groom a 22-year-old phenom with this kind of athleticism and upside. And if you botch it again, you don't just lose a player, you lose your future. The Warriors front office is acting like they're masterminding some galaxy brain master plan. But in reality, they're trying to play 4D chess on a tic-tac-toe board. And they're losing. Badly. In the end, the Warriors will either commit or combust. There is no middle road. Steph doesn't have 5 more years to wait on decision-making committees. If they believe in Kuminga, they need to prove it with minutes, money, and a system that fits. Not just half-hearted press releases and eye-roll-worthy trade rumors, because if they don't, someone else will. And that someone will probably pay him, play him, and not need an organizational therapist to make the decision. But hey, on the bright side, at least the Suns said no. That's probably the first mature basketball decision they've made since 2010. So we wait, we watch, we sip our tea. Because the next headline might not be about a reportedly unlikely trade. It might be Warriors regret losing Kuminga after All-Star breakout. And you know what? That'll be the most Warriors 2025 thing to ever happen. Stay tuned, because the only thing more unstable than the Warriors' future is their belief in it.